Welcome to this video about type A versus type B personality. So, I am very type A, and I noticed a lot of my videos I've mentioned stuff like trying to enjoy the process more, and I'm like, it seems like a lot of the stuff I'm trying to do is become more type B. So then I'm curious, I'm like, well, what is type A? So type A personality is defined as highly competitive and ambitious, strong sense of urgency, always in a hurry, often impatient and easily frustrated. Goal oriented and driven, multitasks frequently, and prefers efficiency. Can be aggressive or intense with work, tends to experience higher stress levels, more prone to workaholism and burnout. Can struggle with relaxation and leisure. Type B personality is relaxed, easygoing, and patient, less driven by competition and more cooperative. Enjoys the process rather than the outcome, less likely to feel pressured by constant time constraints, more adaptable to stress and setbacks, can focus on one task at a time without rushing, more likely to engage in creative or leisure activities, generally maintains better work life balance. So, looking at this, I'm struck by the notion of how much better Type B seems. It seems like the personality of kings, CEOs, and leaders, while Type A seems like the personality of the busy assistant, always running around with their head up their butt. So I thought for a while, I was like, I'm so happy to be Type A. And let me switch to this. This is the meme I had. My brother showed it to me once because he said it perfectly described me, and it's whoa, whoa, slow down, friend. Don't you know sometimes you have to stop to smell the flowers? And then type A huffs the flowers and then wins the championship. I was like, dude, that's how you gotta do it in life. You gotta always be competing. You gotta win everything. And I mean, I've written a paper in middle school that said life's a competition, we're gonna win it. And I think it is to some degree. And you define how you want to win it, but there's I think it's more so a competition with yourself of the theoretical best that you can be versus who you currently are, and you see how close to that theoretical best and you can get. I don't really believe in competing with other people, especially since when you try to judge it on the basis of a score, it's really hard. Like, how do you measure the best life lived? Lives saved, money, happiness. Like everyone has their own metrics or a combination of factors. But anyways, back to the video. Going through this one by one. So type A, and this is what really struck me when I saw all these at once because I was like highly competitive and ambitious. I'm like, well, that's good. And I'm like, is it like I've come down a little bit. Like I'm not as competitive as I used to be with people. It's not openly competitive, but like it can be bad. Like at the point where someone pulls a picture of their fish and they're like, "Hey, check out this like 12-inch fish I caught." And you're like, "Oh, that's cool, man. Look at this 14-inch fish." And you just pull out your phone. Like the always having to one up at everyone else. Um, you're gonna rub people the wrong way, and if you're too competitive, people aren't gonna be able to relax around you and enjoy themselves, and you can't always try to outdo people, or you find yourself alone and away from opportunity. So the true power isn't in outdoing everyone, it's in making people want to work with you. Then a strong sense of urgency and always in a hurry, which is type A. To this, put myself here. These are the notes I'm going off. To this, I like when walking places, I try to like allow my legs to go like a little bit before my torso and kind of lean back because it gives you this really confident look. And it actually helps you be confident. But like if I don't rush anywhere, because what does rushing say? It says someone has control of your time and you can't manage it properly or else you'd be there on time. Like that's really what rushing somewhere says. I don't think kings ever really ran around. Again, this is my perception of kings and what I've read in books, but like leaders don't really run around. They more have a calm demeanor. And when you run around yourself, when you rush places, just think I don't have control of my time. Someone tells me where to be, when to be there, and I also can't manage it properly because I'm late. That's what it says to me. You can be late, and you can. What I'll do now is if I'm late, I'll just text them like, "Hey man, I'm running 5 minutes late." I still walk at my normal pace. I don't look rushed. So then we go down here. Type A, often impatient, easily frustrated. Type B, enjoys the process rather than the outcome. A while ago, I realized you don't have to be impatient to get stuff done. That rush, that stress of like, gotta do this, doesn't actually really help. Often hinders your thought process. You wind up missing out on more creative, efficient ways of solving issues or solving the problem. Then type A, goal oriented and driven, versus type B, less likely to feel pressured by constant time constraints. So it's good to be goal oriented and driven, but it might come across as less. But it might come across as less likely to feel pressured by time constraints. Oh, but might come across as less likely to feel pressured by time constraints if the person knows that they're on their path to success. It's like not constantly asking, "Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet?" in the car. It's like you know you're going there. You know you're on the path. You know you're doing things right. So there's a lack of pressure, but the type A personality is always there's always that pressure of how can I get there faster? Am I doing everything I need to be doing? Um, and you feel the presence of time. Like you never seem to be able to do enough to satisfy yourself. Then multitasking, type A personality, multitask frequently and prefers efficiency. For this, I just wrote LOL. Because multitasking does not make you more efficient. If anything, it makes you less efficient because you're constantly losing time in task switching, going between one activity to another. You are stopping yourself from entering a flow state, and yeah, it's overall just way worse for you. Um, Type B personality, more adaptable to stress and setbacks. So a while ago, I made a video talking about viewing things as puzzles, not problems. Like this helped me a lot with IT stuff. I used to get very frustrated and many times resisted the urge of smashing my computer mouse into the wall. Like, I literally just wanted a giant pile of computer mouses next to me so that every time I was at work and I couldn't do what I wanted to do, I could just whip them out the wall. I might have minor anger issues, but I didn't see it as anger issues. I saw it as lack of mouses to throw at the wall. But yeah, it's if you view things as a puzzle, like when you're solving a puzzle and the piece doesn't fit or it doesn't go the way you want, you're not mad at it. Like only a psychopath would get mad every time they try to fit a puzzle piece into the position and it didn't fit and they got frustrated. Like you expect there to be a little bit of challenge. Um, can be type A personality can be aggressive or intense to work with. Type B personality can focus on one task at a time without rushing. So, like with the other example, being intense is good, being too intense is bad. Being able to focus at one activity at a time is really good because it allows you to enter into a flow state where you kind of have all the information you're pulling from up in your brain. And to put this into computer programming terms, it's like when you start a new activity, you have certain things you have to remember, which you download or get uploaded into your brain from your memory, and it goes from your long-term storage to your short-term storage. And the more you switch between tasks, the more you have to offload that and then reload that, and then yeah, you do not get stuff done. Um, Type A personality tends to experience higher stress levels versus Type B personality, which is more likely to engage in creative or leisure activities. Not only creative or leisure activities, but also creative ways to solve the problems. Like being lazy and creative can help you question, is this the most important thing I can be doing? Is there a more efficient way of doing this? Like, those are really important to ask yourself, because always being stressed out and trying to get the most done often stops you from doing anything, because you have to look at the work, you have to do some planning, and putting in some creative thinking really helps. I mean, without creative thinking, we wouldn't have robots and machinery today, which allows us to do the work many times over. We're going to have ChatGPT and AI that allows us to do many times the work of someone handwriting stuff. So, type A is more prone to workaholism and burnout. Type B is more likely to engage in creative or leisure activities. I think this is because type A, from what I understand, is never really satisfied. Kind of gets their sense of security and self from, I mean self, but security by like the work. So they'll be stressed out, and they'll use the work as a way of, what's it called, escapism from it, and from those feelings of anxiety that they might have due to other things going on in their life. Say a family member dies or is sick, they'll often go to the work and try to use that as a way of ignoring those feelings. Then, so I was talking to I was talking to ChatGPT about this, and it's like, well, it seems like you're onto something. Type B traits align more with leadership and control, while Type A often seems to be caught up in the grind. King CEOs and top strategists move deliberately, not frantically. Let's refine this further. So, competitive versus cooperative. True power isn't about outdoing everyone. It's about making people want to work with you. Um, Urgency versus presence. Rushing signals low status. Important people set their pace. If you own your time, others will respect it. Frustration versus mastery. Seeing obstacles as puzzles instead of problems keeps you in control, cools your head down to make better decisions. Multitasking versus focus. Deep work wins. A leader delegates rather than drowns in tasks. Intensity versus longevity. Burning out means losing the long term game. Strategic patience outperforms brutal force. Stress versus creative solutions. High stress clouds judgment. The best decision comes from when you step back and see the whole board. Workaholism versus balance. Overwork is just poor energy management. You need, and like, something that you have to think about. You need energy in versus energy out. Like, any basic, I think it's what thermodynamics, like, law of the universe is conservation of energy. Energy into a system, the energy out of a system has to equal the energy into the system, or else you're going to deplete the energy in the system, and you're going to just burn out. So you need to put energy in through tasks like eating healthy, sleep, meditation, walking in nature, socializing, hanging out with friends. Like, they're not optional tasks. Like, you have to do this stuff in order to get energy in and to energize yourself so that you can output at greater capacities, or else you just find yourself burnt out, struggling to properly think, and your head just goes in this like, you'll be staring at something and your brain's not really working because you don't have any energy coming in. So how can you output anything? I mean, work hard, play hard, man, but don't drink. Drinking's just stupid. It kills your energy. So how did the concept of type A versus type B personality originate? Who introduced these classifications, and why do people seem to fit so neatly into one category or the other? In other words, why do the traits associated with each other tend to cluster together so naturally? So I was just interested in the backstory. So type A versus type B personality was actually introduced in 1950s by cardiologist Meyer Friedman and Ray Rosenman, where they were studying heart disease and noticed that the patients exhibited two distinct behavioral patterns. Type A seemed to have be more prone to stress-related heart conditions, and type B was more relaxed and less likely to suffer heart disease. I mean, if that's not motivation alone to become more type B, or at least balance yourself out. So why do these traits function so, like, why do they group them each other so well together? Why is like someone, at least for me, I was like very type A. Why does all those traits kind of go together to make one person? So evolutionarily speaking, I'll just put my notes here. Evolutionarily speaking, type A traits are associated with high dopamine and adrenaline levels linked to drive, focus, and urgency. These traits would have been advantageous for leadership, hunting, and problem solving under pressure. Type B traits align more with serotonin and oxytocin, which regulate calmness, social bonding, and creativity for long term cooperation and strategic thinking. Um, the leadership right here, I don't think type A isn't a I'll put type A isn't a good leader. Type A is a slave driver, basically. It's how they treat themselves. They'll work you to death. Um, so neurological wiring. People with a high stress response, cortisol and adrenaline sensitivity may naturally develop a type A tendency, competitiveness, urgency, and intensity. Those with lower psychological stress responses are more likely to remain patient, creative, and easy outgoing, which aligns with type B behavior. So then we have culture and social reinforcement. Society rewards certain behaviors, reinforcing these clusters. Cooperative environments and fast paced industry favor type A personality, further conditioning them to lean into these traits. Creative fields and social professionals value more relaxed, adaptable natures of type B personalities. So it's kind of all the type A's try to outdo each other with being type A. So it's what happens. And all the type B's are like, hey man, chill down a little. And they kind of separate each other a little bit. How is type A personality related to high dopamine levels? I've always identified as type A, but I also have ADHD. This is me personally. I was questioning this. I'm like, high dopamine? Like, not really ADHD. Um, so, why type A is often associated with high dopamine? Dopamine is a neurotransmitter involved in motivation, reward seeking, and drive. People with naturally high dopamine sensitivity tend to be competitive and goal oriented, focus or on immediate rewards, action driven, and restless without stimulation. These traits overlap heavily with type A behaviors: urgency, high energy, and intense work ethic. But ADHD is linked to low dopamine. How does that fit? ADHD isn't simply a case of low dopamine, but rather dopamine dysregulation, meaning that the brain doesn't efficiently release dopamine or use dopamine, which leads to difficulty sustaining focus on uninteresting tasks, seeking novelty or immediate gratification, impulse, and restlessness. Despite this, many people with ADHD develop type A behaviors because a coping mechanism to compensate as a coping mechanism to compensate for their natural dopamine imbalances. So how can ADHD lead to type A behaviors? Urgency and time pressure, the now or never mindset. ADHD makes delayed rewards less motivating, so you may become hyper focused under tight deadlines. Many type A individuals thrive under pressure because they often learn that's the only way to stay engaged. Yeah, I mean, a lot of my friends that I know who have ADHD procrastinate until like right before their assignments due, and then just knock it out. And for me personally, I would do that too. That's mostly how I got to college. Competitiveness and drive as self regulation. People with ADHD often struggle with sustained effort unless there's a challenge or competition. Many people, many become ultra competitive to force dopamine release through winning, achievement, or risk taking. So because the brain doesn't properly use dopamine, we can get dopamine through winning. So we kind of make winning our drug of choice. Multitasking as an ADHD coping mechanism. ADHD brains need constant stimulation, so multitasking can feel like the only way to stay engaged. It can, but it's not the best. I've been practicing meditation. I love it. If I have difficulty staying engaged in a task, I will draw my attention to my breath and I'll focus on my breath while doing the task. And then I'll find at some point I no longer find it difficult to focus on the task itself and I kind of lose focus on my breath. And it can fluctuate between the two. But normally, if I find it difficult to focus, I'll bring it back to my breath while still doing the activity. And then as I become more engaged, it will just, my attention will switch over because it's difficult to keep you focused on your breath. Like, it's something your body can naturally do automatically. So as your focus goes away, it might come back and you just repeat the process. It's really efficient. And actually, when you're focusing on your breath and doing an activity, it's very calming, which is nice. Restlessness and hyperactivity feeds into workaholism. So ADHD individuals struggle to turn off their brains, leading to constant movement, ambition, and overworking, classic type A traits. Why? This is why many people with ADHD hyperfixate on work, fitness, or creative projects, or projects in general. Yeah, it's kind of like once it's a difficulty in getting started in a task, and then once you're started in that task, you're like really into that task, so you don't want to ever rip yourself away. But I was like, okay, so what's the real connection? Yeah, that's what I said. What's the real connection? Type A behavior is often high dopamine activity, but ADHD is more chronic dopamine underactivity, leading to a constant chase for stimulation. This is why many ADHD individuals have type A personality. They are compensating for dopamine deficiency by seeking intensive experiences that give them drive, the drive they naturally lack, or the dopamine they naturally lack by winning. Um, So how is type A personality often associated with high dopamine, especially since it's linked to traits of a hard worker, not a leader? I love this breakdown. It really flips the script on type A versus type B personality. You're seeing type B as the mindset of power, while type A is more of the hustler mentality, which can burn itself out. So, how is type A with high dopamine, even though it's not rare? Type A personality is Type A people are always chasing. They're wired to seek external reward, which keeps them on the move, stressed and hustling for the next hit of validation or accomplishment. Type B people already are already in possession. They operate from a place of abundance, balance, control, which makes them look more like kings or more like they have their stuff together. And then I just wrote down here: kings don't chase. Kings are I mean, that's ChatGPT right there. Kings are the prize, not the. Sometimes it writes bad stuff. Um, then type B personality. Yeah, I mean, I just made a chart down here where I name the traits, and I'm like competitiveness and ambition. Type A always fights to win. Type B plays the long game, chooses its battles wisely. It's not always best to win each time. Type A, I mean, that's more of what we set up above. Why is type A the worker mindset and type B the king? Type A thrives in short term battles. They hustle, grind, and fight, but that doesn't always scale. You can't grind your way to empire. You can't. You need to look back. You need to create space and think creatively. You need to plan. Always doing isn't actually what's needed. Type B plays the infinite game. They think in decades, not weeks. They let others rush around while they build something timeless. And then, final thoughts. Okay, this bottom section right here is how do I become more type B? So, focus on awareness. Take time to assess your emotional and mental states through the day. Type A personalities tend to be action oriented, but pausing to reflect can help you build self-awareness and emotional regulation, which is key to being more balanced and confident. Huge for awareness is not consuming everything, like creating space for it. That space is time where you're not listening to anything, time that like your mind can just be and you can observe your thoughts. This means, at least for me, I was constantly watching TV or had a TV show playing in the background while I was doing anything. Anytime I step away from actually doing work, I'd put on a YouTube clip, I'd put on a podcast, or I'd put on music, and I'd be listening to that. Like, say I was at work, got up, went to make some copies, I'd literally toss my headphones on, put a YouTube video on, and do that. Like, I wasn't ever really having time for the awareness. So you have to do that. You have to make time for the awareness. You have to make space for it where you're not consuming information constantly. Practice mindfulness and meditation. So regular mindfulness and meditation practices can help you with quiet the internal noise that comes from the dopamine-driven mindset. This can increase serotonin, promote emotional stability, and create space for detachment, strategic thinking. The best ways I found of doing this is noticing, like when you're walking, notice how the things feel, how they smell. Notice textures on the walls. Notice, just notice stuff. Like, how does this wind feel on your face? Like, how does the room you just entered smell? Like, put yourself more into your body as a way of becoming more mindful. Um, just if you need to, just take deep breaths, man. Notice how it feels to pull the air into your nose, how it feels to release it, how, like, if you take your hat off, like, how does the temperature change on your scalp feel? Just notice it. Become less in your mind and more into your body. Then meditating. Focus on, for me, I focus on my breath. I will sit, I have a little meditation stool. You can just do this on a cushion, in a chair, wherever you want. Just sit, set a timer for like 10 minutes. Just focus on your breath. How it feels coming in, going out, expanding your belly. And it really helps because your mind will wander and then you bring it back on focus, and then it wanders, and you bring it back, and it's just a practice of corralling it. Then embrace delayed gratification. One of the hallmarks of type A personality is a desire for immediate results. Shift this mindset by intentionally choosing tasks that require more time to complete without seeking instant rewards. This, while good, I would recommend breaking down those larger tasks into smaller ones that you can then cross off so that you still get some of those dopamine hits. Because I mean, if you try to change too radically, like your brain's been wired to function properly at this point, and there will be a dopamine withdrawal. Um, yeah, so I mean, make a list of stuff, and then at the top of the list, put finish making the list, and then cross that off. And yeah, you just make a list of break a long term goal into much smaller tasks, and then cross one of those off at least once a day. And if you can't cross one off once a day, you haven't broke it down small enough. Find balance with nature. This is huge. So for improving serotonin levels, simply take a walk in the woods, being near water, deeply breathing can help you detach from the constant hustle. it is like nature is medicine. Go for a walk in the woods. Walking on the street is good. Walking on a path in the woods is better. Set long term goals with flexibility. Type B personalities tend to be more strategic, focusing on long term goals and having more flexibility to adapt. Instead of obsessing over every detail, set a broader vision where you want to go and allow room for changes along the way. And this is just being a little bit more relaxed with yourself and not taking yourself so seriously. Cultivate confidence through self care. Challenge thirst over work. Yeah, I don't really agree with some of those other ones. Anyways, challenging the urge to overwork. There's something talked about one of the books I've read in the last year where people have the issue of when they're working, they want to be relaxing. When they're relaxing, they want to be working. This is like go on vacation, man. And you'll, at least for me, I felt this. I'm on vacation, I'm like, I had to leave my laptop at home because I wanted to, like, I get ideas and I want to work on them. And then while I'm working, I'm like, I was just daydreaming about going on vacation. So I try to force myself to do it. I'll leave my phone, I'll leave my computer behind, and I'll go on walks. I'll take time away from it. I set deadlines. I go on my phone and I have a stopwatch, and I'll set it for 6 hours. And I mean, I have my own company, so I work for myself, but I do 6 hours of work a day. And I literally time my work for working from home. And I'm like, 6 hours. I start it. If I go to the bathroom, I pause it. If I come back from the bathroom, I start it again. If I get up to cook lunch, I pause it. When I'm done, I start it again. And I put in 6 hours a day. And at the end of those 6 hours, I literally stop. I don't let myself work more because I'm robbing myself of the ability to get more done. Which is really the case. Like, the harder you play, the harder you work. And it's kind of like this cycle or this engine where you go higher and lower and higher and lower. And when you actually make time to play, you can get a lot of work done because your brain's functioning properly. Like ADHD, that's an issue with dopamine regulation. You know what's great for helping with dopamine regulation? Playing and having fun. Yeah, like playing soccer, wrestling, talking to people, playing chess. I hate playing chess online, it's too addicting. Playing chess with people in person, like going out for walks in nature. Like, if you want to be less ADHD, have fun, play. That's some of the best medication out there. Um, but yeah, I mean, you get out there and you actually play for a month, and it feels like your ADHD medication, it feels like your brain almost gets back to normal. And then your ADHD medication on top of it helps it even more. Just it actually makes your medication a lot more effective. At least that's what I found. So it helps you focus more, helps you think clearer, make time to play. Make time where you're working and you're not working. And yeah, comment any questions you have down below. Peace out.